Hey guys. Oh, hey guys. Welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JessinoTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome to another. I can't talk today. Welcome to another daily download. Welcome. Let's just stop the intro because it's just was crap. But welcome, guys. There's already 50 of you guys in here. So like the video, subscribe to the channel. We have loads to talk about, which is going to be probably interesting because today I woke up, my usual time of the day, about 6 a.m. ish. And my mentions were blowing up. All of the WhatsApp group chats were going crazy. Everything on Twitter was insane. And I was like, oh, maybe we signed somebody. And lo and behold, it was because Bissouma is looking like he's going to sign for Spurs. And so, the Arsenal fan base has completely melted down on that news. And I have several different, I have a take, but there's different layers to it. So let's just start off with Bissouma, the player. I rate the player very highly, very highly. I think he's a very good player and one of the best central defense, the best midfielders that play outside of the top six. So I would put him in the same category as like Declan Rice, maybe higher than Neves. I think he's better than Neves in some respects. And, so I always thought that he could play for one of the big six. Like you guys know on this channel, especially last season or last summer, I was like, we definitely need to sign this player, right? And because we were playing with a double pivot. And for me, I was like, okay, well, how can we get the most out of this double pivot? You obviously put somebody like Bissouma in there and you let Thomas Partey go forward. So I'm not going to go back and say that I don't rate the player. There's so much evidence there out there. And I would never do something like that. Like, that's just not me. Like, if I think the player's good, whether they come to Arsenal or not, the facts remain the same. And I think Bissouma to Spurs is a good signing. So there you go. But what I don't really agree with is the fact that we need to be up in an uproar every single time our rivals sign a player, especially a player that we were never really credibly linked to. I could see more if, we lose our number one targets to, rivals, but not a player that we've never really been linked to. What I've always kind of spoken about on this channel is I was always kind of like, I want Bissouma to come to Arsenal, but we've never really been linked to him. Not in the ways that we've been linked to like Ruben Neves, for example. And so, it's hard for me to connect to the outrage when we weren't really linked with him. I get that it's Spurs, but there's so many Arsenal fans that will say Spurs, are a smaller club than us. They're not as good as us. We're this and that. We're the bigger club. And then when they sign somebody, we act like children. And it's like, well, what is it? Are we worried about them or not? Are we concerned or are we not? Because I can't connect with it. So Bissouma, to Spurs, definitely for me, does speak to the fact that you can do signings quickly. I think that's what I get mostly from it, is that you can kind of make progress for signings quicker than Arsenal do. But at the same time, some of our targets are also on international duty, and Bissouma is not. He ended his international duty like almost a week ago. So, it's one of those where it's kind of like, I get it, but like, what is the outrage actually about? We didn't lose a target to Spurs. They were interested in him and we weren't. The fee is good. The fee is very good for a player of Bissouma's quality. Obviously, 1 year left on his deal. 25 million is a steal for a player like that. But we would be getting Yuri Tielemans for about the same amount. So it's not like we would be out here doing stupid, like paying stupid money for players and they're getting all these deals. So I still can't really see where the outrage is coming from. I think it's just a combination of it's Spurs. We're not feeling confident about what we're doing. Bissouma's a player that we really like as a fan base, and we've convinced ourselves that he was a target when he isn't. And so now everybody, excuse me, guys, I just came from the gym, so I'm still like a little bit hot. But now we're just like in this craziness, and I just don't understand why. I have like there's the part about, him and his personal situation that I do feel like people are ignoring, which is kind of weird. I've always said on this channel that, oh my gosh, you guys, like coming from the gym, I'm like still hot. Sorry. Whew. Oh, what's that? Oh, okay, sorry. I'm like still hot from the gym. So I'm like still glistening. But there's the part about his personal issues that I kind of feel like some Arsenal fans have decided is not important. And I think for Arsenal, it would be a risk to bring in somebody that has a sexual assault case pending. So there's that. But even beyond that, like we don't play with a double pivot anymore. We don't actually like our main focus needs to be somebody that can help us in attack and not somebody that's going to bolster the defense. And so we're trying to bring in somebody who's better than Granit Xhaka, not somebody that can back up Thomas Partey. Oh my gosh, I'm so hot. Like, you guys, this light is killing me. You guys, can you see it? I'm so hot. Sorry. Sorry, you guys. But I'm like, I'm so hot. Oh my gosh, I want to turn off that light so bad. I'm so hot. But yeah, it's one of those where it's kind of like we need a different profile of player. And that should have been obvious from the moment that we switched from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3 midseason. That's what made the Tielemans links make sense to me. Now, if we were still playing with a double pivot and a 10, yeah, then you might want to go after somebody like Bissouma. But that's not how we play, so I don't really understand anymore. Like I don't really understand this thing, you know? But Bissouma, like I'm not gonna go back and say that he's not a good player. He's a really, really good player, but so is Yuri Tielemans, and he's our number one target. So I don't really understand, like, is it just the fact that it feels like they're doing things and we aren't? There are credible reports that we are making movements with Yuri Tielemans and Gabriel Jesus. So the idea that like we're not doing anything and they're doing everything, that doesn't really hold water. So I can't take off the hoodie right now. Like, or maybe I mean I could, but like I don't have like on an appropriate shirt under. So I'm not going to. You guys, I'm just gonna have to do this. Like I will calm down at some point. But yeah, you guys, I don't really understand it. Like I think we're just as a fan base very insecure, and so which some of it is relatable, or it's it's I get it because we haven't been good in the market before, so we're always kind of like, oh, well, they're making moves, shouldn't we be making those moves? Da, da, da. But when you just look at the situation, like we were never credibly linked to the guy. So the idea that what I'm literally seeing on the timeline is how could Arsenal have let this happen? Really? Like, how can Arsenal have let this happen? So just because you don't want to be bantered by Spurs fans, they should go out there and buy a player that maybe doesn't fit our system right now. Weird. So yeah, I really like Basuma as the player. I do think his personal issues make the deal complicated for Arsenal. Do we need a central defensive midfielder to back up Thomas Partey? Yes. But our priority needs to be, I think there's the bigger priority is upgrading on Granit Xhaka, not bringing in a backup for Thomas Partey. Because in the system that we play, Basuma doesn't start. Like that's just not how we play. So we do need it. And if you're upset that we aren't addressing both or potentially will not be addressing both positions, starting left central midfield and backup DM, I hear you. I hear that. Like, I definitely hear that. I hear well, why can't we do both? Arsenal are kind of that team that can never really address multiple issues at once. And so we always have something there that we know we should have addressed that we didn't. And that's where you get the papering over the cracks with El Neni. I freaking get that. Like, I really do. And that's my main thing is like, I wish we could address both with quality, because what ends up happening is if we do address multiple issues, then it's never with quality. Not every position is not addressed with quality. So I think, you know, like Sambi, we kind of addressed the Thomas Partey issue, but not with the type of quality that we would need, if that makes sense, because Sambi's so far away from Thomas Partey. So again, I completely understand if you feel like we need two midfielders, because I do think we need two midfielders. If you feel like we need the backup to Thomas Partey because he always get injured, and we need Yuri Tielemans, I get that. But I think it has to be Thomas. Does it have to be Bissouma? No, it doesn't. It could be somebody else. His personal issues make it difficult. The links were never credible. And the idea that we need to be on the timeline showing our asses because Spurs signed Bissouma is just crazy to me. So you're not going to get that from me. So, there you go. But it's a good signing for Spurs, and we just have to move on from that. Keenan says Basuma and Partey can easily play together in a three-man midfield with Partey playing as a progressor creator. We have spoken about this. There's on the channel before when we were playing in a double pivot. And yes, they can play like that. But does that help our goals? My biggest fear with the Thomas Partey, Yves Bissouma midfield is it puts a lot of stress and creativity onto Odegaard. Thomas Partey can play as an 8, but we've seen that he doesn't really have what it takes, like, in the final third, in my opinion, and I love Thomas Partey. So, I do think that Bissouma would be good in our team as another option, and if we did need to play in a different way, they would play well together. But I think Arsenal is making a clear statement with the fact that Arteta wants to go with a better version of Xhaka on the left-hand side with Yuri Tielemans and not two central defensive midfielders in a double pivot. That, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's pretty clear. So should the club recruit based on what the fans want, or should they recruit based on what their plan is? That's kind of, I'm not denying that Bissouma and Partey can't play together, but in the way that we play, Yuri Tielemans probably fits a little bit better, especially when we talk about we need goals from midfield. We need a player that can really push us forward in the final third. I don't necessarily feel like Thomas Partey, Bissouma in a midfield 3 necessarily does that. So yeah, let's see. Priceless says Bissouma is not needed. Billy says Tielemans consistently gets 10 goal contributions every season, while Bissouma has 3-4 maximum. We need goals and creativity more than ball winner destroyer. Yeah. So, Sanuga says, crazy how Spurs sacked 3 managers, built a new stadium, no major sales, and still have money to sign players. Meanwhile, Arsenal played broke for 20 years after building the Emirates. Hey, I mean, that's just, we know what the Cronkies are like. What can we do? The Cronkies, that's just how they've been. And then they have been investing since they've been in full ownership. But when they were not in full ownership, they didn't really invest the way that they probably should have. So, I get that. Blaze says, I don't think Bissouma's court case is the issue. If Bissouma had a serious problem with the court case, Tottenham wouldn't risk to buy him. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about that case or what the outcome of it can be. Yo-Yo says, Tielemans, Partey, Odegaard looks good with the ball. I fear for them without it. That 3 smells fishy to me. Well, let's not sit here and act like Granit Xhaka is better or anything like that. And you guys have, I think I put it up there before that before last season, when obviously Leicester were ravaged with injuries, Tielemans was above Yves Bissouma in ball recoveries. So the narrative around Tielemans that he's some, guy that can't be a two-way player and doesn't contribute defensively and is going to get ran over and all this kind of stuff, Arsenal is going to seek to possess the ball. So you want better technical players in your team when you possess the ball. If you're a possession team, do you really want to use one of your 3 midfield spots for somebody who's not really a technical player? I think Bissouma should get more credit for what he can do on the ball, but he's nowhere near the same as Yuri Tielemans. So if the ball recoveries and the defensive work rate, the defensive numbers are quite similar for Tielemans and Bissouma, but one is significantly better attacking wise and technically on the ball, then why would you bring in Bissouma over him? I guess that's my thing. And I know that's not what you're saying, but the whole Tielemans without the ball thing is a myth. It's a myth. Sorry. High Tech J says our potential midfield of Tielemans, Odegaard, and Partey is fine when our defenders have all the pace. KT, Saliba, White, Gabriel, and Tommy. Sean says Bissouma can't progress the ball. Man, I'm out. I didn't say he couldn't progress the ball. But when you look at the progressive numbers between Bissouma and Tielemans, which everybody uses numbers when it suits their narrative, so I will do the same thing. Tielemans has very similar ball recovery stats as Bissouma, but his ball progression, his expected assists and expected goals are significantly better than Bissouma's. So I'm not saying Bissouma can't progress the ball, but I'm saying that Tielemans does it better. Like, I get that some people just want, we should have got Bissouma. We should have got Bissouma. You're not getting that here. Like, that's just, Bissouma is a great player that really would improve Arsenal. But the plan is to bring in a left-sided 8 that can contribute with goals and assists. And Tielemans' ball progression numbers are just as good or better than Bissouma's. And off the ball, it's a myth that he's terrible. It's a myth. Lynn says, I think Arteta has been lied to by the Cronkies. I think that's why they have told Arteta one thing and done completely the opposite. I think Arteta knew what players he wanted and now has gone, well, what would make you think that? Do we have any, is Bissouma going to Spurs an indication of Arteta not getting the players that he wants? Because we've never been linked with Bissouma ever. So yeah, let's see. Hakum says, I thought Bissouma would end up at Chelsea to replace Conte. There's probably, let's see, Chelsea, Man United, they could have really used him as well. So, I don't know. It's other teams didn't go for him as well. Hakum says apparently Arteta is really unhappy with the board and Cronkies. This is also the same source that said that Ben White was going to choose Everton over Arsenal because their project was better. So we kind of have to remember as well, consider the source. There might be some truth to that maybe Arteta wanted things sorted quicker, or, maybe they're changing some of the targets now after, seeing what opportunities are available in the market. I don't know what's going on, but that's a report. Even when there's positive reports, people don't believe them. But when there's negative ones, they tend to dive straight in. So I would say consider the source and take everything with a grain of salt, positive and negative. So yeah. Let's see. Elliot Roberts says Xhaka, Elneny, Lokonga, they're not as good as Bissouma. We could have addressed 2 areas of need, Tielemans and Bissouma, for the cost of very average defender. Benjamin should have been both rather than either or. Fair enough. I said already that I feel like there is some valid, why can't we address multiple issues at once, blah, 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 blah. I get that. If I was not an advocate of the Elneny re-signing. I think we should have moved him on and brought in somebody else that was closer to Thomas Partey. I said Ibrahim Singare, that's the player I would have went after. And we didn't do it. So yeah, it does annoy me sometimes that we don't actually address all the issues at once and with quality. But some of the things that I've seen online today are just silly. And just show how insecure we are as a fan base. So yeah. Let's see. EK says, so Jess, if Party gets injured, which is very likely, who would be our midfield three? Xhaka, Tielemans, Odegaard is a very immobile midfield three. Well, I don't know who it would be, and it will be an issue again. Thomas Party, like, I'm not saying we don't need a central defensive midfielder. I feel like that's what people are hearing because I'm not diving off of a cliff because Spurs signed a player that I really like. Um, it will be an issue again, but in terms of the way that we play, if I had to say what's more of would I prefer us to have Bissouma behind Thomas Partey? And because the reality is, like, Arteta's going to want uh, some sort of deep lying playmaker ish type of player on the left. Like, he loves Granite, and that's why Granite never gets dropped out of the team. It's always Thomas Partey plus Granite. So for me, it's more important to replace Granite and make sure we have a better player than him in terms of what we do on the attacking side than having a DM for Thomas Partey. I think that that's a bigger priority because if you tell me, like, okay, we were to bring in Yves Bissouma, and no Tielemans, and the midfield stayed the same beyond that, I can't say that I believe that Arteta is gonna start Bissouma and Thomas Partey. Bissouma would be behind Thomas Partey, and so you'd still have the same midfield that we had last season. So if bringing in Tielemans means I don't have to see Granit Xhaka slowly, pulling his leg back to shoot the ball and shooting it into defenders' ankles, then I choose that. Even knowing that when Thomas Partey gets injured, we're gonna have a problem. Like, I because it's always gonna be either or with Arsenal, and I think that's more of the problem here, is we have to choose, and we shouldn't have to choose. We should be able to get both. But if I can only get one, I would rather get Xhaka out of that starting lineup than get a backup to Thomas Partey, even though I know it's gonna be an issue. So, yeah, like, we know it'll still be there. Hopefully Sambi will get better. I do think the Sambi is shit. He was crap. We paid 17 million for him and he's no good thing is kind of just an overreaction to feeling some type of way about Basuma. Sambi's not a crap player. It's just a matter of him getting more minutes um, and getting used to being in the Premier League. The El Neni thing I don't understand, but that's what we do. We paper over the cracks like that. So there you go. Lucas says the fact that Party and Odegaard are surefire starters is mind-boggling. This club, the fact that Party and Odegaard are surefire starters is boggling this club. I think Xhaka being a starter is more concerning than those two being clear starters. So, you know, I I don't know if it's about Thomas Partey and Odegaard. I think it's more about Granit Xhaka and needing to upgrade upon him than those two not having competition. And the reason why Odegaard doesn't have competition is because ESR can't stay fit. There are players that can play in that position, but you know they don't stay fit. So what can you do? Let's see. Shaquille says Basuma should be coming in and putting Party on the bench. I don't agree with that. Lynn says, I would question the Basuma deal at Spurs. Brighton were much quicker on letting him go than Ben White for Basuma. There didn't seem to be haggling because, first of all, Basuma was within 1 year of their deal, within 1 year of his deal. So Basuma or Brighton can't afford to let him go for free, especially because the players just, he's too good to let him go for free, and they need to be able to reinvest, which they already did. They already have two players that can play in that position, but nominally they can't let him go for free. So that's probably a part of it as well. And it also may have been a little bit like we need to get him off the books because we don't know what's going on with this court case. But Ben White is English and they didn't want to sell him either. And and he wasn't within 1 year of his deal. So that's kind of the differences between that. So, yeah, I understand it. Let's just close it here. I understand. My main issue is I feel like we should be able to address both, and we need to address midfield. I would prefer Arsenal really just secure midfield more than anything, but I know that's not going to happen. So if we have to choose, I'd rather get an upgrade on Xhaka than a backup to Thomas Partey. The way that we play suits a Tielemans more than a Bissouma. And if you've been paying attention to the way Arsenal played in our best period between November and March, we did not play with a double pivot, and we don't need another central defensive midfielder. We need somebody better in that left 8 position. And it's a great deal for Spurs. I get it hurts because a lot of Arsenal fans hitched their wagon to the Bissouma thing with no credible links, but that doesn't mean we're not going to sign anybody. And like, you just need to relax. Like, that's pretty much what it is for me. So, yeah, I get it. I do understand it, but I don't know. I just feel like we're giving Spurs exactly what they want as well. For a club that spends all their time trying to convince people that we're still a big club and we're better than Spurs, the way we just showed our asses on social media today didn't really speak to that. There's 200 of you guys in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Marquinhos is confirmed. That happened yesterday. Of course, again, also like the sequence in which deals are done also make the fans feel a certain way. So I get that Marquinhos is not a big signing, and so people are acting like that's the only signing that we're going to do. We could be so childish during the transfer window. It's ridiculous. But Marquinhos is an interesting one. Again, I told people the other day that I am excited about this signing because I want to see what he's got. I'm hoping that he's a Martinelli. I don't know if clubs can hit it out of the park twice with stuff like this, but we'll see. What's weird about this one is the whole thing with Wolves, that they're seeking legal advice because they already had, Marquinhos going out on loan and all this kind of stuff. So hopefully that doesn't come to bite us in the ass later or whatever. But Marquinhos confirmed as Arsenal player. He'll be there for preseason. And, Adu's already said that he's a young player for the future, but they're going to see what he's got. And so, yeah, like obviously from clips, you can't really tell. And we know that the league that he was playing in wasn't great, but he looks a lot more like he's grown into his body a little bit more than Martinelli did when he first came. So we'll see what he's got, but I am excited about this signing. I know that the sequence isn't great. El Neni signing, and Kedia signing, Marquinhos signing. It's not, you want the big signings early because, like, let's be real. If we had signed Tielemans and Gabriel Jesus before Spurs signed Bissouma, I don't think people would be reacting the same way. It's because we feel like we have nothing. But Marquinhos, cool signing. Can't wait to see what he has going. See if he can, make it into the first team. But if not, he'll go, on loan. Let's see. Cray says, loads of fans don't realize we see through their words by their actions. They make out we're on some sort of path to glory under Arteta, and Spuds are nothing. But like you said, they've shown their ass. I mean, we know, like, I know that the Arsenal fans are really insecure. It's like, it's just the insecurity was insane today. Blaze says, Jess, do you think Marquinhos will go on loan or he will stay competing with Saka for right wing? I don't know, because there's going to be a lot of games to play. So I'm not sure. He may. I think my initial reaction is that he'll go out on loan. That's my initial reaction. But yeah. Yo-Yo says, Adu needs to bring in Neymar Jr. for me to care about this window. Yeah, I mean, hopefully he's Neymar, type player. I don't think he's that levels, but what we want is at least another Martinelli, right? But I think the more important part of this deal that a lot of Arsenal fans are not really interested in or did not read and do not care is that the reason why we spent the 3 million on him was to facilitate the relationship between Arsenal and Sao Paulo. And so, we need relationships in certain markets to get leverage in those markets for future deals. And yes, the present is very important, and I do think Arsenal need to focus a lot more on the present than the future. But these things still need to happen, regardless of that. So yeah, it would be nice for Marquinhos to really shine during preseason. So we'll just see. Tony says, just got in. Did I miss the Masuma meltdown? Good. Yeah, there was no meltdown for me, but we talked about the meltdown from everybody else. Billy says, even if Party can't stay fit, I think we could get away with Xhaka, Tielemans, Lokonga, Elneny, especially against lesser teams. Lokonga is very similar to Party. He is the heir. I think my concern is just about there being more games. There's going to be more games, and even with no Europe, it was difficult for Thomas Partey to stay fit. So we will be seeing more of these squad players than we did last season, and we didn't like the amount that we were seeing them anyway. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if Thomas Partey can stay fit or not. I would bet a lot that he won't. And so it'll be interesting to see how we maneuver. I think the disregard and the throwing away of Sambi Lokonga has been really disappointing to me from the fan base, especially because there were times during the season where he did look really good, but he did have some bigger mistakes that kind of hurt us in certain games. But the idea that because we do this, it's like you're either really, really good or shit. And Sambi is neither of those, but his trajectory is more towards being a good player than a bad one. And that's clear from this season. I don't know, I don't know why that's being put out there. And I think it's just when we wallow in it, we really wallow in it as a fan base. And it's tiring. It really is. Ryan says both Tielemans and Jesus have been away on international duty, which is why deals haven't been done. We'll talk about that. Ify says, do you think Marquinhos is better than Omari Hutchinson? That's hard to tell. Omari Hutchinson is so highly rated, but physically, I think he's not as physically developed as Marquinhos. So, he may be really talented, but we've seen with certain players that it's hard to get up to the men's game without seeing them there. So I would say, just based off the fact that Omari Hutchinson hasn't played like men's football, that Marquinhos might be better than him right now. But Marquinhos also played at a very low level in Brazil. So it's very hard to tell. I would say right now, maybe Marquinhos just edges it. But Omari Hutchinson is so highly rated, and I think he'll get a chance as well as Marcelo Flores. Marquinhos will get a chance. Some of these players will get a chance to show what they can do, and so we'll get to see more about them. Joe says, should Marquinhos stay if Pepe leaves? He will be getting playing time as Saka's understudy. I have a take on this that I want to wait just a little bit, to put it out there. What does this mean? I don't like how Jess based. What does that mean? Anike says, I feel like both parties' injuries were Arteta's fault. If he uses Elneny in the Palace game or Liverpool game, his injuries wouldn't have been so bad. I do feel like the over-reliance on those 12 to 13 players ultimately manifested into those injuries. I think Tierney's had a lot to do with himself because he won't pull himself out of international fixtures. And so he doesn't put Arsenal first. And because he did go to those friendlies and did feel something in his knee and didn't say anything, he not only missed out on the most important part of the season for Arsenal, but he wasn't there to help Scotland qualify. And so I think Tierney's was a combination of Arteta not feeling, and then that ultimately goes back to recruitment. Arteta not feeling confident in Tavares is an Adu and Arteta issue, but was exacerbated by Tierney. So all of that is mixed in together. Thomas Partey for me is when he's fatigued at all, he's not the same player at all. And so they knew that he was fatigued. And it was in the report that they knew when he came back from helping Ghana qualify for the World Cup, which he was in Africa. He flew back from Africa and then turned around and played against Crystal Palace, and he was tired. And like, let's be real. Like, after he helped them qualify for the World Cup, he probably was freaking hungover. And so there was never any proactive rotation from Arteta to prevent these things from happening. So I do believe I do agree with you on that. I just don't know how that changes next season. It needs to happen, but I don't know. I don't know how we keep this from becoming another issue. Let's see. Um, um, Eric says, I think Lokonga has promise, but he needs more time in the oven. I love Party, but he's prone to injury. Yuri will be a great addition, but not a pure six to back up Party. Depth there would be really a help. It would. It would. It would really help. Um, but that's why, when they re-signed El Neni, it's not that I don't like El Neni and I want him gone so badly. It's that it was a clear message to me that we wouldn't prioritize bringing in backup for Thomas Partey, which means that we'll still have to continue like the same issues. So yeah. Let's see. Lynn says, I think Saka can play on the left, and also eventually I think Martinelli will play up front with Jesus. It'll be interesting to see how things manifest in that regard up front. But moving on, I can tell nobody's excited about Marquinhos, which is fine. I'm interested. I can't wait to see what he's like. Raphinha Links heating up. Obviously, like a lot of Arsenal fans are really excited about the prospect of bringing in Raphinha. I would say my my feelings on this is that there's legitimate interest from Arsenal. I think Arsenal really like him, but there's several different things that would prevent us from being able to get him. And so those barriers would make me be a little bit more cautious about like starting to plan our lives with Rafinha. One of them being that he has his heart set on Barcelona. And Barcelona always seem to find a way to find the money. So they may not have it now, but when Frankie de Jong is sold, they may sell another player, so, they may have enough to get him. So there's that, and then there's the aspect of, like, we would have to sell Pepe or move Pepe on to bring him in. Now, this is very similar to my issues with Arsenal in regards to having to choose between a backup for Thomas Partey and a left 8, is that I don't feel like we should have to choose, and I also don't feel like this very needed attacking signing should be contingent on whether Pepe is left or not, because, like, if another attacker is contingent upon Pepe going and we're a really bad selling team, then we're not getting it. Then we're not getting him. And so I don't like that Arsenal don't just go ahead and bring in players even though we have somebody there already. I think bigger clubs bring in players and then they'll try to sell after, where we're always have to sell or move somebody on to bring somebody in. It's bullshit. I don't like it. But there's so many different factors, and then even if we were to get rid of Pepe or move Pepe on, and Barcelona were not to be able to come up with the funds, I'm sure it would be more than just Spurs and Arsenal interested in Raphinha. So there's a lot of different things in there, you know what I mean? That would prevent him from coming. So I wouldn't get too excited. Like, the links are there and that's fun, but like, I just don't see how this comes to fruition. Now, beyond that, the likelihood and all that kind of stuff, um, the likelihood and all of that is that, and this whole thing about like, good players don't want to come to teams in Europa League. We signed Aubameyang and Thomas Partey and all the players that we signed last summer, even without Europe. So that's not true. Um, a lot of them prefer Champions League, but sometimes you just have to pay them to come, and on before a World Cup, you also wanna play somewhere where you're gonna get playing time. So this whole they don't wanna come to teams in Europa League. We literally signed Thomas Partey and Aubameyang without Champions League. Like, stop saying that. It's not smart. Sorry, it's not true. But regardless of that, I already listed the reasons why we may not be able to get him. But what I would say is that we need to bring in an attacker that's more experienced and can actually step in on both sides, because I know that people are looking at Raphinha and they're like, "Well, he's a right winger. Could we move him to the left?" I don't think we need somebody that we need to move on to the left. I think we need somebody that can play on both sides, because not only does Martinelli need competition or somebody to play in front of him, but so does Saka. Um, Yeah, but see, like, you guys this is the thing, it's like, I know that you guys wanna be, like, so negative and, like, everything is nobody wants to come to us, but who cares? Like, he was a release clause, but he still had to agree to come to Arsenal. He was playing at a Champions League level team, and he left there. Like, you can't just sell him off. Remember, Atletico didn't even wanna sell him. So, this is nonsense, you guys. This is nonsense. Champions League level players will come to Europa League teams if they're paid right and it's the right circumstance for them. Like, we love to wallow in it. We are such a insecure fan base, and even though there's tons of examples of something happening, we act like it never happened before. It's just this dumb. But Rafinha, like, Saka also needs competition. And with Saka being in a position where he may or may not sign a new contract, which I know is something we don't like to talk about. But I think a better way of kind of protecting ourselves from the Saka situation is also making sure that there's somebody there that could potentially play there anyway. Um, I think that's what good clubs do. I love Bukayo. I think he's great, and he's definitely like our franchise player, but he's 20 and he's not above having a spot taken by somebody. So I think going into next season, having somebody else that could, like, not having a Pepe and not having just like a Marquinhos type person behind Saka, will also give us not leverage, but put us in a position where if Saka were to try to play hardball or not sign a contract, we don't feel like the world is falling apart. And so that's kind of my take on that. Is it's not about finding just somebody that can play on the left. We need somebody that can also play in front of Saka too. He's a great player, but we shouldn't have all our eggs in that Saka basket, because he may not sign a new contract, or he may ask for the contract with the release clause. And so we have to start building beyond him, to be honest. With him in our plans, but also in a position where if we were to have to sell him, it wouldn't be the end of the world. So there you go. Lynn says Saka will only get better if he has competition. Let's see. Thierry says, Olise would be my choice cover for Saka in competition for Odegaard. Thoughts? I don't think we need another kid. I think we need somebody that's already ready-made and ready to go. And I don't think we don't need cover for Saka. We need competition for Bukayo Saka. The competition for Odegaard for me is Emile Smith Rowe. So Lucas says, even reports saying it would drag out. He is waiting for Barca. Sorry, by the way, I was a little frustrated earlier. It was hard sometimes with this club. I know it is. Like, it is hard. And like, I get that people are emotional, and, we still, nobody's really recovered. Not a lot of people haven't really recovered from us not making the top four. So a lot of this is just kind of like leftover emotion from that. So, I get that. But you guys know I'm going to keep it real with you. Happily Egg says Raphinha can play the Saka role or the Odegaard role. Tony says LT just posted goodbye to Fiorentina. That whole situation, I just can't even get involved. Like, I can't even get involved with it. Lucas Torreira is for a player that goes to clubs and people love him, he's so unsellable. It's insane. Let's see. Cray says, yeah, Saka thrives better with competition. And we it's not it's I think that he retains his spot. And if we were to bring in somebody like Raphinha, not even Raphinha, but just somebody like him that's older and could legitimately start for Arsenal, I think that also shows that, like, we won't die if you go. And I think that that's not necessarily leverage, but it's a good position to be in, especially when the player is going to play hardball. Right now, Saka knows, like, he kind of has us by the balls because there's nobody else. And having somebody like Marquinhos or Amari Hutchinson behind him would only further solidify that feeling. So if you bring in Raphinha, or somebody like that, which I still think are would be a very difficult deal to do. If you were to bring in somebody like that, you could easily play Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus, and Raphinha. If Saka is, you know, maybe not signing a deal or whatever, like, you have to have another option. Right now, he's undroppable, and that's not a good situation to be in when he's trying to negotiate a contract. Um, Anike says Rafinha feels like a change in strategy. I don't think we are bringing someone in for left wing anymore. I think the club might try to bring Saka competition on right wing and let ESR and Martinelli. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things you could do, with that. Rafinha could still play on the left, Saka can play on the left. Rafinha could play on the right, Gabriel Jesus could play on the left or the right. So there's a bunch of different options there. I just think having a player like Rafinha at the club would, if Saka were not to sign a contract or were to try to put a release clause in, wouldn't you feel better if you had Raphinha in your team? Not having somebody like that, I think it makes us more desperate. And I don't feel like Arsenal should be desperate. Um, Even though Saka's a great player. Um, Lynn says, but no competition, it would be easy for complacency to creep in, and you say he holds all the cards. Exactly. Like, we just need to move on. Like, we just move forward into a place where the club actually has good players, and we're not worried about hurting somebody's feelings because maybe they don't start every single game. That's why our team is not as good as other teams. There's not competition. Like, a lot of Liverpool fans, I think, some of them were worried when Luis Diaz came in because they were like, well, we already have all these players. We have Jota, we have this and that. It only made Mane go up to another level. And I think something similar could happen at Arsenal. You just have to be willing to shake it up. Cray says someone who takes their chance when given is forcing Saka to play his best games more consistently. Um, Ev says, "How have you lot forgot about Reece Nelson? He had a good season last year." Yeah, but I mean, the reports out there are saying that we want to sell. We want to move him on. He only has a year left on his deal, so I don't think it's actually realistic for Reece Nelson to come back. And it took him a long time to actually start to get going. At Feyenoord. So yeah. Let's see. Yo-Yo says, Raphinha, Saka, Gabriel Jesus are the kind of players needed to keep ESR Martinelli on the bench. Fair enough, exactly. So, yeah, it's one of those where we just kind of have to see what happens with that. I still think Raphinha is a very difficult deal to do, and I don't expect him to be at Arsenal. But if we could get something like that done or a player like that, that would be amazing. It would be. It would be the type of signing that I don't think Arsenal fans would be expecting. So, and that's kind of what Arsenal need to do. Like, what's odd about this window is that if we were to sign Gabriel Jesus and Tielemans, there would still be money left over. And I just wonder how they would expect to reinvest some of that money, because you can't just bring in those two players and a left back. You need to bring in another attacker. So it'd be interesting to see how they maneuver that. Let me see. I'm trying to just make sure I haven't seen anything new come out. Let's see. Yo-Yo says Raphinha is definitely a due target for me. I don't know. I think it might be an Arteta one. But it also fits the Edu situation as well. Orpheus Jones says, would you prefer Raphinha or Richarlison? I prefer Raphinha as a player, but I feel like we need Richarlison more, a player who is more off the ball. Um, I would say, like, I prefer Raphinha. I think he's the better player, but I like Richarlison as well as a different type of player. Someone that, as people would say, like, what how do you say it? It's like, what do they say? It's like, what do the kids say? He's got that dog in him, you know? Sometimes you do need that. Um, so Richarlison is a good player. I would prefer Raphinha, but Richarlison is also a good player that, I mean, but not for 60 million. I know, no. Um, I wouldn't want him for 60 million. Um, and Kit says early signs don't convince me we're getting into top four next year, waiting for the next round of excuses from Arteta and the fanboys. God, we are really just we're down in it. We're down in it. Saida says, do you believe the rumors about Arteta being frustrated with the window? For someone who has been backing the Cronky a lot, I find it strange. Yeah, you guys. I'll never say it again. I promise. He got that dog in him. But I can never say that again. I'm too old. All right, but I do believe that there's always some truth in every single report because journalists actually can't just make things up. They will kind of pick and choose how they frame something so that, they get the type of response that they want. But there might be something in it. Adu is very slow in the market. He's very slow and he's indecisive. That's my view on Adu, is that he's very indecisive. So we have targets, and instead of just going and getting them done, he sees other things and gets distracted and thinks he has Jesus and Tielemans so wrapped up that he can go and look at other things. He can go and talk to Osimhen's agent and take time doing that. He can talk to Savage's agent, knowing damn well we ain't getting none of those players. And that might be the frustration with Arteta, is that you don't want to lose targets that you've really worked on and got kind of there. Because you're looking at other things and trying to see if you can get something better. So, I think it's more of that. And then like everything needing to be signed off by the Cronkies, not quite sure about that. But yeah, that's what I kind of think it is, because that's what I feel like I've seen. Um, is a little bit of slowness, because I'm gonna kind of talk to this person and talk to this person and see and all this kind of stuff. And it's like you have targets that are ready there to be done. You don't need to look at other things unless you know it can get done. Let's see. Let's see. Um Tony says, why are people so down? Nations League is still ongoing. Everyone is still playing friendlies right now. That leads me right into the Jesus and Tielemans signings concluded soon. So this is coming from Ben Jacobs. Ben Jacobs was on the Football Terrace earlier today and was saying that if you speak to AFC sources, they consider themselves to be front runners for Gabriel Jesus. They believe they're going to get Jesus and Tielemans as a double and relatively early in the window. This is a transfer saga that's going to conclude quickly. Arsenal remain confident and on course to sign Yuri Tielemans before the month is out. Tielemans is one of Mikel's top priorities. So that's coming straight from a report. Like, Tielemans is Arteta's signing. So if that's who Arteta really wants, then Adu maybe going out there and looking at other options in Serie A and shit like that, maybe slowing things down. And maybe that is annoying to Arteta. I could definitely see that. Um, let's see. I saw something else too, and that was like the other day. Maybe I already did that one. It was the one that was coming from the Brazilian source around Gabriel Jesus, and they still maintain that our Arsenal are the front runners for Gabriel Jesus as well. So, I mean, regardless of like, oh, this is coming from Andre Hernan, Arsenal are still a step forward and the favorites to sign Jesus. So Nations League is still happening. I think today is Belgium's last game, I think. And so that could probably get done soon. Very similarly to Bissouma, Leicester cannot afford to let Yuri Tielemans go for free. So they're going to want to conclude things quickly, and they won't be able to command such a high price. I don't know how fast Gabriel Jesus will get done. I do feel like he will require more wages and more convincing because other teams would be interested in him. But I still think it's a matter of the number. Personal terms are said to already be done with Gabriel Jesus from certain sources. I don't know if they're right or not, but um, personal terms have already kind of been there with other teams coming into it and may take a little bit more. But I think right now it's more about also the fee with Manchester City. What is that going to be? So we'll see, what kind of happens with all these types of things. I think, you know, what has annoyed me today is that Arsenal fans are acting like they don't know. We don't know anything. There's nothing going on. We're just sitting around doing nothing. And I don't think it's I don't think, Arsenal moved the quickest, but I also don't think they're doing nothing, which would be strange, if they were. So, let's see. Craze says, I reckon his agent is waiting for potential offers. Ankit says, we got Lokonga for 15 to 20 million, who is nowhere near ready for the Premier League. And then we don't want to sign Bissouma for 25, who is Premier League proven. Make it make sense. Well, Bissouma last summer wouldn't have been 20 to 25 million. He would have been 40 to 45, 50 million. So the idea, like, remember, we bought Sambi last summer. We didn't like Bissouma's going for 20, 25 this summer. So it's not really relevant, is it? For me, it's not really relevant because if we would have signed Bissouma last summer, then we wouldn't have gotten some of our other signings. So yeah. Hakum says Tielemans would get done first, in my opinion. I agree. Let's see. Keenan says, is Trossard the only left wing we are linked to? Jesus and Saka need another wide forward to complete the front three. Yeah, I mean, Trossard is the only one that we're really linked to. Gakpo, those rumors kind of went cold, and it may be because he's also super young. And kind of unproven. Whoever we bring in the attacking positions has got to be like proven, ready to go. And so, yeah, Trossard is the only left wing we've actually been linked to, but it seems like Raphinha is the most talked about right now. But there was like Trossard and also Jared Bowen in terms of wingers. Let's see. Let's see. Lynn says, and here, sorry, you had more. Lynn says, so if it's true about personal terms, money would have been discussed and agreed. Yeah, no, I mean, so I'm not going to pretend it like I do know that like if you do personal terms, like they're kind of done, but at the same time, with other teams coming in, you might have to up the money a little bit. I don't know if that's what's happening with Gabriel Jesus, but I do feel like we would have need to, with other teams being interested, we would have to pay him more wages. So yeah, but I think Manchester City, the issue is going to be with Manchester City, not necessarily an issue, but I think with them, they can afford to really put high prices on their players because they're in no desperate mood to sell. Like they're just not, regardless if they're 2 years, 3 years, 1 year out from the end of their deal. So Manchester City will hold out for as much as possible. So with other teams coming in, they can obviously say, well, we want to bump it up a little bit. There's been a lot of, you know, different types of reports like, oh, the fee is going to be this. We know what the fee is going to be. Personal terms have been agreed. We just have to wait this one out. But I still think this one gets done. Like, I just don't really see it. Like, I don't see where to be alarmed just yet. Blaze says, Jess, do you think it's very important new signings should be make preseason with Arsenal? Should we could prepare? Yeah, I do. I do think that the quicker, especially like Jesus and Tielemans can get done, the better. Obviously, you want like all your transfers there, but the midfielder and the striker have to be there for sure. Can't start the season without them. Let's see. let's see. Gunner 420 says Scamacca and Gabriel would be a nice addition to the attack, two different types of strikers. And yeah, maybe. Like, I you guys know how I feel about the whole Scamacca thing. I don't think there's any way that we get that guy. Even though the fact that they like Ornstein came out and said that the coaching staff are not convinced by him. The coaching staff includes Mikel Arteta. So I don't think Arteta really rates Scamacca that highly. And so I don't see how that one gets done without Arteta really wanting him. That feels very ado driven. And so, yeah, I don't know about that one, but we'll see. Let's see. Norwegian Gunnar says Arsenal had personal terms agreed with Husam. The deal never materialized. Anyways, I'm fine with that. Yeah, I mean, personal terms don't really mean a lot, because you can agree personal terms and all this kind of stuff. But again, like, oh, Ramsdale made a mistake. Oh well. But yeah, Arsenal did have personal terms agreed with Husam, and it can fall through at any time. But who knows? I'm not going to Orlando. Um, I'm not gonna go to Orlando. I was supposed to go last summer, but we couldn't go, but yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Keenan says, I don't think we are getting more than 4 solid targets in the door, assuming Jesus and Tielemans are done. I think we need a wide forward and another midfielder. We need a left back. More than I think we need we do need another midfielder, but with the amount of midfielders that are there, I just don't see it happening. So I don't think we get more um, I don't think we get more midfielders. I think we'll get a left back. Yeah, but I see everybody kind of in there talking about Ramsdale. Just the other day, everybody was talking about how good he was, and now he's crap. He's not a crap goalkeeper, but if he doesn't ever become the number one goalkeeper, I don't give a shit because I don't care about England. So there you go. I don't care. So I think Kroenke needs to kick Arteta out and bring in Diego Simeone. He's the type of manager that will bully Pep and Klopp. Arsenal fans will never accept Simeone. Like, they cry anytime we don't play good football. Like, when we were sitting back with Arteta, everybody was crying, but that's how we won the FA Cup. When we came out and started trying to play, then all of a sudden it was, oh my God, we're doing it. It's like nobody knows what they really want. Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, feels like everybody's kind of watching now, watching the game, which is cool. So that's all I really wanted to go over today. There's not much really to update you guys on. We spent a lot of time talking about the Bissouma thing. Um, but yeah, Arsenal fans have really just kind of capitulated hard as hell today. And if we lose out on our number one targets, that's when I'll lose my mind. But right now, I can't do it. Um, so there. But hopefully we find out some things after today, because Tielemans will be done with international duty, and hopefully things will move on from there. I'm not going to let it bother me until then. I saw something that I wanted to address really quick. I see you, FTL Gunnar Craig. Thank you so much. I will enjoy my scarf when it gets here. Thank you. So yeah. All right, you guys, we're going to end it there today. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys on the next one.